great to see you. That's probably not the key we decided on. Is it? Nice. Ooh. Shabbat shalom. So cozy, right? After the craziness, it's so super cozy. Na 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 ya, na 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 na. Awesome. Hi. Shabbat shalom. It's nice to just be in like a little cozy, quiet Shabbat, nuzzled in between the Chagim. No, we're good. A little quiet, nuzzling Shabbat in between big moments. Oh, those are gorgeous flowers. Perot yafot. They are stunning. And I know because I used to work in a flower shop. Oh, your mama. Nine, na 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 na. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
on page number 24. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom, shalom, shalom Alechem. Shalom Alechem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elion, Mimelech Malchi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, במלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, ברכוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי שלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך. שלום, שלום עליך, שלום עליכם, מלאכי השרת, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש, 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 הקדוש ברוך הוא, ברוך הוא.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
There's definitely a different feeling in the air tonight. Our sukkah, if you saw, is outside. It's been built. And we're headed from this kind of really intense period of introspection, which is the 10 days of awe. It's Rosh Hashanah through Yom Kippur, into an outward expression of our Jewish living. The idea is that although we prayed in community, Yom Kippur especially was about you, whereas Simchat Torah and Sukkot are about the other, especially Sukkot, right? We're told that we're supposed to invite people into our sukkah, and we're supposed to feed them. And if you sit in your sukkah and you enjoy yourself, only yourself, Maimonides calls that Simchat HaBeten, or actually Simchat Keraso, the joy of your gut, not true joy, right? Simchat Amiti in Hebrew, true joy, is sharing it with other people, which means that as Sukkot moves toward us, we change from the inner to the outer, and we start focusing on our community. And so that's exactly what we're going to be doing tonight. Yes, Shabbat is time of introspection. It's time to get deeper into your thoughts and into the prayers, but it's also about hearing the community around you. It's about sharing a cookie later with your community. It's about getting to know someone a little bit better than you did before you walked in. We saw that, by the way, at play at our Tat Shabbat, and we've got some of our stalwarts from our Tat Shabbat who are coming in to check out our service tonight. Welcome. And we're going to keep doing it throughout the course of tonight. So a few logistics. I want to make sure everybody's grabbed a prayer book on their way in. In addition, if you need to use the restroom, it's right outside to your right. Our handicap accessible and all gender bathrooms are to the left in the main office. We have large print prayer books, and we've got also hearing assisted devices. And if for any reason you're having trouble hearing us, just let us know. We want to make sure that we can do the best that we can to be heard over the course of tonight. In addition to that, should we need any exits, of course, the way in are exits, but there's also an exit here you can see, should you ever need it. And finally, each of us are really responsible for those around us, which means that should you find someone who's lost, who doesn't know what page they're on, where they are on the page, don't be shy about leaning over and pointing. That way we can make sure everybody's on the same page, both literally and figuratively. And should you need anything, Nancy Sarayski is our usher, and you can always ask her for anything that you need tonight. So with that, we're going to move into lighting our candles and blessing our wine. And we're overjoyed that Benny Katz will become Bar Mitzvah tomorrow. He's going to stand up here for the first time and publicly read Torah for our congregation, though I'm sure, Benny, it will not be the last time we will see you in that position. And so with that, We're going to turn to page 2 and 3 as we prepare to light our candles tonight. And so come on up with your family.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
We're on page number 5.
Just go? Oh, no, hold this. I have to drink it? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehillah Lemikra kodesh, zecher letziot mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'achava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
L'chaim. Yisher koach.
You guys can take a seat. Congratulations. We're on page number 20 as we join together in the words of L'chadoti.
Lecha dodi likrat kala yarara yalala yalala b'nei Shabbat nekabela yayirai lecha dodi likrat kala yarara yalala yalala b'nei Shabbat nekabela shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad El המיוחד, אדוני
5, Hitoriri. Verse 9, we rise together.
Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala yada pene Shabbat nekabela. Once more, a little faster. Lecha dodi likrat kala yada pene Shabbat nekabela yidai lecha dodi likrat kala yada pene Shabbat nekabela.
We remain standing, turning to page 28 for the Baruch Hu.
Join us.
We're seated together. Top of page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Avta Torah u'mitzvot Hukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Aliken Adonai Eloheinu B'shokbeinu u'bekumenu נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך
ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. We're on page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught forever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page
וגרו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל.
So even though it's not Sukkot 51 weeks of the year, every single week we actually, as we pray, think about the Sukkah because it happens to appear on page 42 in our next prayer. This prayer speaks about what it means to fear the night and to ask God to spread over us literally a sukkah of peace. And the reason why is not just because the word sukkah means covering, right? The optimal part of the sukkah is actually the schach on the top, the covering. But it's also because a sukkah of peace is fragile. And we understand that peace, inner peace, outer peace, peace in the world, is something that with a strong wind could easily blow away. And so we ask God to spread over that peace. Well, at the same time, we know it's not permanent. We're on page 42.
Or on the screen. Hashkivenu ya Eloheinu li shalom. Or not. There it is. keep that going or sing.
Ashkivenu, Ya Eloheinu,
Shalom
Ashkivenu, Ya Eloheinu,
Shalom
Ashkivenu, Ya Eloheinu,
Shalom, 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 Baruch Ata Adonai, Hapora Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kol Amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
We're on page 46. In a moment, we're going to pray these words, asking God to open our mouths that we might praise God, and then we'll move into silence through page 62. Now, you can either pray the traditional words on the page or whatever words are in your heart as together we rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufia gitehilatecha.
Just invite those who might still be praying in our room here or in your room in the virtual universe. You can let these words just wash over you, or if you're ready to come to some kind of landing, it's our custom to always come out of the silence Amidah with some kind of prayer that helps us all get on board around shlemut, around needing to do the work to bring wholeness into the world. Shalom, bring peace into the world. Figure out how to bring a kind of healing and repair both inside of our own selves and between one another. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadarai, yadarai, olam chesed yibaneh, yadarai, yadarai, world from love. And if we build this world, and if we build this world, if we build this world from love, then God will build, then God will build this world, will build this world from love through us. Once more, olam chesed yibaneh. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yadadai, yadadai, yadai, yadai.
At this point in our service, we have the opportunity to offer a Mishnah Berach for those in need of healing, of body, mind, and soul. If you'll join me on page 253, and when my eyes meet yours, please add the names of those that you'd like to add. And the same for the folks that are online. You can put those names in the chat. Mishnah Berach Avotenu V'Imotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, Hu Yivarech et HaCholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion, for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen. Mishnah Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishnah Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Earlier today, I asked my son, I said, I'm kind of at a loss for what to talk about tonight. What do I talk about? And he said, talk about what I learned at school today. So I'm going to talk about what my son learned at school today. This week is a great week because it's the week where all of the Nobel Prizes are announced. And every time that the Nobel Prizes are announced, I often think about the anecdote about one of the more prominent of the Jewish Nobel Prize winners, Isidore Rabi. Now, if you don't know who he is, he won the Nobel Prize many years ago in physics. And he actually credits his mom for the reason that he won that Nobel Prize. He says that when he got home from school, his mom wouldn't say to him, "What did you learn today?" She didn't say to him, "What did you do today?" She asked him, "Did you ask any good questions?" And he said, "From my mom, I learned to ask good questions And that is what led me to physics, and that has what led me to win this Nobel Prize. This was in his acceptance speech. And I've been thinking a little bit about this, because actually, in Jewish education, kind of classically, there are two different ways to try to teach someone. There is oral repetition and memorization, because there is so much to learn. And then there is inquiry-based education. There's the idea that you start with the question, and in starting with the question, you then lead down a path where you discover the answers yourself. And the truth is, both of them are significant, right? In the Via Hafta, we're told, Vishinantam levanecha, right? You should repeat it over and over and over again until your students get it. And there are episodes in the Talmud where there are teachers, for example, who teach their students 400 times the same lesson until their student has fully learned their lesson. And there are anecdotes of that 401st time, the student getting it wrong, and the teacher still doing it. We're told in Baba Batra in the Talmud that when you finally get a good student, you're supposed to, quote, stuff him full like an ox, right? That's the memorization. That's the making sure that the content is there. But up against that is a different kind of education. And what I would argue is that actually that is the paramount of the Jewish education, and that is inquiry-based. That, by the way, is the way most preschools work, right? Lev isn't stuffed full of education at preschool. You just can't do that. Maybe every once in a while you can teach the letter of the day or the number of the day. But for the most part, it's about exploring. It's literally about digging your hands into Jell-O so that you can feel what it feels like, and trying to pull out buttons from that Jell-O to work on your fine motor skills, right? That's the essence of preschool. And that, if we do things right, is the essence of what we do here, and that's the essence of education writ large. And in this week's Torah portion, we have perhaps one of the best articulations of the importance of being able to do that. Because a couple verses into the portion, which Benny's going to chant tomorrow, Moses says very clearly that you should go to your parents and you should ask about your history, and your parents will tell you your history. I think it's verse 7 or something like that, Benny. And so when that happens, right, it means that there must have been something to spark that sense of questioning. And almost everything that we do in Judaism is meant to help with that questioning. If you think about Passover, for example, Passover, by the way, seems to be a very child-focused holiday for a reason. The whole point of Passover is to get your kids asking questions. You're supposed to even take a table and overturn it, so they walk in immediately saying, what is this topsy-turviness right now that I'm seeing, causing them to ask questions. You're supposed to sit there with nuts in your pocket, throwing your nuts to your kids every time they ask a good question, so that they get a reward and learn by classical conditioning that they need to keep asking questions. In this day and age, probably not nuts because of allergies. But nevertheless, something good, something tasty. The idea is that you want to inspire your kids to ask. And if you think about it, right, when you got the wise son, the wicked son, the simple son, and the son who doesn't know how to ask in the Passover Seder, how does each of those episodes start? You actually did your job right, because they start with a question. It's not, I approach the wise son to teach him. He listens. I approach the wicked son. He doesn't. In each of them, something has inspired them to ask. Even the Via Hafta, which I spoke about before and which we chanted, with that famous word, Vishinantam, which means repeat over and over again. The very next thing that you're supposed to do to learn to love God is to do rituals that are going to get their kids' hands dirty with Judaism and make them be inspired to ask more questions. To put a mezuzah on the door so they have to pass it every single day and spark questions. Wrap themselves in tefillin every single day to ask questions. And so 2,000 years ago, the rabbis asked an important question, as they would. They actually asked two that I'm going to talk about tonight. The first is there are two different kinds of great scholars in their time period. One they called Sinai scholars, Sinai, which means these are the scholars that can take tradition and can remember it. They've got a steel trap memory, and everything that's said to them stays with them. The other, which is called Oker Harim, which means the turning over of mountains, are not the ones who remember everything. They're the ones who can ask such fundamental questions that they can come up with the novel ideas, and they can even, they are so smart, make the kosher not kosher and the not kosher kosher. And so the rabbis ask this question, who is better, the Sinai scholar or the turner of mountains? And they go back and forth, and they put really good arguments one way or the other. But the one who wins, I think probably you know where I'm going with this, is the one who overturns mountains. It is less about what you remember and more about whether or not you've been accustomed to ask the kind of novel questions that will cause you to take tradition and flip it on its head. And so, if that is the purpose, then everything that we need to do with the children in our lives should be a way to help and inspire them to actually be the ones to ask good questions. Now, Benny, I'll talk about you a lot tomorrow, and I was thinking of saving this anecdote for tomorrow, but I'll probably come up with another anecdote or two in the meantime. But I actually remember, you embody that, because a couple years ago, your teacher came to me, I don't know if you remember, from your Hebrew class, and said, my kids are asking so many questions, I can't answer them all. Can you do a guest spot in my class? You remember when I came into your class? And it's because of you and people like you who learned here and who embody that Jewish spirit, that it is about approaching, it is about asking. And it's the reason that Moses, in that speech, in Parshat Ha'azinu, doesn't say, go to your kids and tell them what happened to you in the past. It's taken for granted that they will. Now, the second question that the sages ask is they liken scholars to 4 different kinds of kitchen appliances, to a sponge, to a sieve, right? And a number of other things. And they go through each one. Now, you would think that they would find that the ideal student is a sponge, right? The one who can take everything in, who can remember everything, right? A sponge holds all the water. But that's not actually the point, right? The point is to be the sieve. And the sieve is the one, right? There are 4 scholars. One who remembers everything, one who forgets everything, that's the funnel, right? The one who separates the wheat from the chaff. In this particular case, they keep the bad stuff. So they forget all the good stuff and keep the bad stuff. And then the sieve, the one who is able to kind of get the fine flour and keep the fine flour and keep the other stuff which they're going to throw away later. And that's the essence of the good student. It's not about how much you can remember. It's about asking those fundamental questions so that you keep the essential information, the essence, while letting the other stuff pass through. Our goal always, being the learners that we are and inspiring our children to be the learners that they are, is to be inquiry-based, to understand that sometimes the question is the answer. I had a teacher, and I'll conclude here, who once told me, Rabbi David Ellenson, who ordained me, did he ordain you? Yes, who ordained Rabbi Litwin also. His first year did it? Wow. And he told me this story about the fact that he was a kid once, and he asked this question of his teacher. His teacher, by the way, he grew up in a very Orthodox yeshiva. And he said to his teacher, I don't understand. In the prayer that we just did, the Amidah, we say, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov. You remember that prayer that we just said? How come Abraham was once called Avram, and he got a new name, Abraham, and Jacob, Yaakov, was once called Yaakov, and he got a new name, Israel? How come we have new name Abraham, old name Jacob? Why don't we have both having new names and both having old names? And his teacher walked up to him and kissed him on the head, and then walked away and continued the lesson. Because the essence of Jewish living is the question, not the answer. And maybe the teacher had the answer, or maybe he didn't, but that was not the point. The point is to be inspired enough that with open eyes you can turn those mountains over, and you can make it so that the question itself is the reason for learning. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to rise together, page 282 for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot adam ha, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those that we've loved and who we've lost. As I call the name of each of your loved one, I'll invite you to rise in your seat. This Shabbat, we observe the following yard sites: Helen Sue Abraham, Marge Amazon, Abraham Becker, May Chavkin, Seth Chilton, Tilly Troberski, Frank Denny, Nathan Fink, Molly Fink, Bonnie Friedman, Otto Friedman, Bernard Meyer Fritz, Minnie Gussoff, Aaron Heller, Bonnie Horowitz, Samuel Cantor, Leah Kaplan, Benjamin Liebling, Ann Leaf, Joseph Lobelson, Mary Marshak, Matt V. Maliker, Louis Miller, Arfazi Nagasa, Elias Newman, Milton Pashman, Janet Perlman, David Reiter, Robert Rubin, Rose Ruffalo, Coleman Sachs, Selma Schwartz Schechner, Harry Silberman, Tilly Spirit, Pearl Tucksher, Henry Tykon, Felice Wanger, and Lawrence Wayne. And those who are in their Shiva and Shloshim periods of mourning: Ann Rosenberg, stepmother of Rob Rosenberg; Gwen Kaplan, Adamantic, sister of Vicky Pollock; Sandy Shea, stepfather of Lori Abraham; Joan Horowitz, mother of Amy Horowitz. And though not traditional to formally recite her name, I announce the death of Judy Rich, beloved wife of Robert Rich. The funeral will be Sunday here at 10:30, with Shiva following on Monday and Tuesday at Robert's home from 6 to 9 p.m. with a minyan at 7 each night. In addition, I'll invite anyone here to rise if you are observing a yard site that may not have been on this list, or you are within your one-year period of mourning. We rise together, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad divrach yirtzeh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayed l'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei amaya, yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiram b'yama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al Yisrael v'imru amen. Please be seated. So to do announcements tonight, I want to call up the president of our congregation, Josh Katz.
Shabbat Shalom. I have my notes here about the announcements. Let's see. Okay, first, Sukkot is coming. Don't miss dinner in the sukkah, our brand new sukkah, by the way. October 9th at 5:30, it's potluck. Bring a dish. There's going to be a communal kiddush. We'll do some singing, and then, it'll be great. Catch up with friends, it says. There is Simchat Torah coming up after that, but the rabbi didn't tell me to talk about it, so you're going to have to figure that out on your own. But what I am supposed to talk about, where'd it go? Is A Night with J Street. So we have two leaders from J Street, which is a pro-democracy, pro-peace, pro-Israel organization that's devoted to a two-state approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And we've got the director of the Mid-Atlantic region, as well as New Jersey's chair. And they'll be here to talk to us about that advocacy and so on. And that's going to be happening here on October 26th from 7:30 to 9. It'll be introductions by Rabbi Katz, and then you'll hear from these fine folks. I also heard that this weekend B'nai Mitzvah might be happening, and so if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about Hatzinu and hear some teaching, Benny Katz is going to be celebrating his bar mitzvah, being called to Torah tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. You can catch that on Zoom or here in the sanctuary. Let me put this away. I recently was listening to a podcast, and somebody was recounting an interview that happened with the Dalai Lama. And so I see some folks here who are a little more on the mindfulness track. It's probably something you've heard before, but the interviewer asked the Dalai Lama, what's the happiest moment in your life? And the Dalai Lama gets this impish grin and says, well, right now is the happiest moment. So I have to confess, I've always kind of thought the Dalai Lama was a little full of it. And, is it really the happiest moment for you right now? And are you really that nice? And do you really forgive everybody? But I thought about it, and I realized that whether it's the Dalai Lama's happiest moment doesn't really matter, because what he was going for was to kind of say, you should be trying to make it your happiest moment, the moment that you're in. And this moment I knew was coming, and I didn't want to let it pass by without taking the opportunity to make the most of it. It's my son's bar mitzvah celebration tomorrow, but I wanted to mention this evening another B'nai Mitzvah celebration that's happening in the synagogue this year, and that is that we're celebrating our clergy associate Ronnie Pressman's 13th year here. And most of you probably know Ronnie. For some of our guests who don't know her as well, she plays many, many roles here and has for many years, and is absolutely devoted to the learning and training of our young people in Torah. So devoted that this year she and her family are actually donating a new Torah to the synagogue, and they will be helping us fulfill what I believe is the 613th commandment. Did I get some fact checking on that, rabbis? Okay. Of consecrating it and writing in the Torah as we bring that Torah into our midst. And it's serving a role that was needed, because our Torahs are very heavy. And I actually last year, part of my presidential responsibilities that I wait until the last minute to do, and then the rabbi helps me with, is I pass out honors for the high holidays. And I tried to honor several women in the congregation by asking them to hold the Torahs on Kol Nidre. And that was turned down because the Torahs were too heavy, and standing there for that long with them just wasn't going to get it done for them. It was going to hurt. My back and so on. This is what I heard. And so the Torah that Ronnie and her family sourced for us is actually a much lighter Torah scroll, which should speak to that issue. I hope I'm not boasting when I say this. Ronnie often dons a cape when it comes to B'nai Mitzvah preparation. The kids sometimes really struggle, And I can't tell you, both as a congregant and as a president, how often I hear, oh my God, if it wasn't for Ronnie, I just don't know what we would have done. And so when I say I hope I'm not boasting, that wasn't our experience. I think with my kids, maybe you were able to put the cape away. But I think that highlights, just what you've meant to our family outside of that preparation. You and Freddie welcomed us with open arms, both of my kids and our family, and really made sure that my kids were engaged when they showed up here, that they knew they were cared for. And that's especially true for Ben all the way up until tonight, as you know. And so I couldn't be more pleased to honor you this year and participate in this. And thank you so much for what you have done, both for this community and for our family. Shabbat Shalom.
So we're going to move now, as we look at our screen, to the final verse of Adon Olam. Biado avkid ruchi, ve'eti shavi ayira. Into your soul, into my soul I give to you my spirit in your care. Into your hand, God. So draw me near, and I will not be afraid. Shabbat Shalom.
And Mazel Tov to the whole Katz community. Thank you, Jacob. Shabbat Shalom.